Hello everyone, I'm Nick from nextstepnick.com and today we're going to talk about Change, a homeless survival experience. First things first, thank you very much to the developers for sending me this key. In regard to the tone of the game, I know what you're thinking, it's not really like a bad taste game, it's going out of its way to kind of educate, but I feel like it's a really narrow tightrope they're walking here and there's some problematic bits and pieces, but we'll go through them. First things first though, the other thing I have to really say is that it's got a wonderful soundtrack, check this out. Some really beautiful sound there and some really nice illustration and animation. In regard to the game itself though, like I say, it toes that line and I feel like sometimes it oversteps. I mean, here you can kind of pick your background and you unlock more as the game goes on, and as you can just see from reading a couple of the bits on the screen now, it's a little bit problematic. It's a little bit difficult because you think, well, I understand what you're trying to do. I mean, like with the did you know at the bottom, you're trying to kind of inform and educate others as to the kind of plight of people out there, and I totally understand what you're doing there, but at the same time, by making it a game, it's already up for scrutiny, and a lot of people, I think, when you suggest a game is like a simulator, will immediately go to stuff like Goat Simulator and Surgeon Simulator. You know, a lot of people think that simulators are purely just regurgitations of what we've seen before, you know, comedic stuff. But one of the things I really like about this is that the developer have already said they're donating 20% of the profits from the game to charities that support the homeless, which is great, and that it was primarily made because they themselves were facing that when a game in the past failed and they were struggling to make ends meet. And I totally understand that. I can understand that genuine want to show people how difficult it can be. In regard to the game itself, you're kind of trying to get by as someone who's basically homeless. You know, you need to go to shelters and things like that to make sure you sleep in safe areas for the night. You need to make sure you're finding enough food. You're begging for money and stuff like that, and just it's dark. It's dark. There are certain points where you really do get a lump in your throat in regard to just the feeling of how this would be if it was you. It really does pull on the heartstrings, and I think that's good in a way because it does make you think of things you didn't think of before. You learn different skills as the game goes on, so you learn better ways to see people with potentially, you know, who might be more empathetic towards you. You notice ways, for example, to stay healthy, how to get ahead and potentially get a job, and you can buy items and things that make it easier for you to get ahead, because the basic goal is to kind of get back on the ladder and get back in there, you know, keep yourself clean so you look presentable for job interviews and other things, avoiding illnesses and stuff, to just basically get yourself back to a position where you feel like you can kind of go back to some form of life that isn't what it is right now, and I can totally understand that. I think the problem is that whenever you turn anything into a game, you're immediately, like I say, up for scrutiny, and I think at certain points where it's trying to educate, it sometimes goes a bit too far, too close to the knuckle, I think. There are points, for example, where you have things like muggings and stuff like that, and how unsafe the street is kind of hits home, and that's true, you know, it's interesting to see. But at the same time, there's this option to steal, for example. You can potentially steal, but you can choose not to, and if you succeed at the game, you can kind of get back on the ladder and get a job and work your way up towards having a job and things like that. But there's this kind of feel that, you know, if you succeed, you're basically kind of saying, well, look, people who are homeless don't work hard enough. That kind of comes across a little bit, and I think that's a dangerous line. And I don't think the developer means it that way. I don't think the developer, to be honest, is trying to profit off of this in a negative way. I think they're generally trying to inform and teach others more about it whilst also making a good game. And the game is good. It's very good. It's really fun. It really draws you in. I mean, I was planning on playing a few hours. I ended up playing for basically the best part of the entire night. I got really into this, got into the gameplay loop, loved it. Really enjoyed unlocking things and growing and kind of working towards that goal and kind of keeping everything within the time limits. For example, there you'll see on the top left, you've got your timer counting down. There are certain times that if you can get a job, you have to be at work, but you need to study to get those jobs. You have to kind of apply and just do the best you can, really. And there's that whole thing of getting back on the ladder. Once you basically win, well, I say win, but you basically win when you get up to about, I think it's $200 or £200, and back onto the ladder and, you know, back into the real estate, getting into a house and being safe and secure. But it toes that line, like I say. It kind of sometimes makes you think, well, does that mean homeless people aren't working hard enough? And of course, that's not the point at all. That's not at all what I think they're trying to say. It's just a very difficult scenario to handle. But the game is fun, and like I say, money is being donated in regard to charities to support people who are homeless. So I'd recommend it, to be honest. I had a really nice time with it. I was surprised at how caught up into the game I got. I was genuinely expecting this to be something that made me a bit uncomfortable, but in reality, yeah, it was interesting. It was a fun experience, you know, bittersweet, but generally a good game, well designed. But I would just say be very careful with the tone and make sure that you're aware that this can get a little bit too close to the knuckle. Anyway, thank you very much for tuning in, guys. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and hopefully I'll catch you again very soon.